So in this tutorial, we're going to start adding some walls and meshes into our scene. So first, before we start, if you remember when we were creating the project, there was an option for adding starter content to our project. So we actually did not do that, but Unreal lets you import those assets later. So if I click on Add New, Add Feature Content Pack, and then Content Packs, we can see that there is a starter content here. So this is a really nice way. If you regret not picking the starter content up, you can just add it like this into your project. So we'll wait for a second and it should import all the assets necessary. And that's about it. Now we have starter content. And here we'll see the object that we'll be adding. So a few things before we start. Let's click on an object in a scene. And we can see here that there is properties for the object. So if you look at this details tab, you can see that there are all sorts of properties for this object that we selected. We are just going to look for now to this transform property. We can see that there is location, everything is 0 except the Z. So by default, Unreal places this floor at this location, but we want it at 0. So we want everything to be at 0. But now our character is floating, which is not ideal. We would like him to be on the floor. So one really convenient way to do this would be to click Shift and End, and that will just snap the object. So it will take the object's origin, and then it will snap it to the vertical mesh that it interacts to first. So that will be the floor for this object. So this is a really convenient way. So if he is somewhere here, you can just click Shift and place him at the bottom. You can also manually move him, but that might be a bit more. It probably take a bit more time and maybe a bit more inaccurate. And if you look closely, if you increase this property here and we move things, you can see that the character is kind of snapping, and that is because this snapping option is enabled. So if I disable it and I move it, we can see that the character is moving smoothly. Let's click Ctrl Z, and that is because this option is not enabled. So snapping is really useful when we are placing things like walls and tileable things, and also want to kind of offset things in a kind of predictable and controllable way. So that's essentially what tiling does. Now let's add our first wall. So let's take this wall door and put it in our scene. And if you place it, you can see that it's kind of snapped a bit, and now it's snapped to our terrain, and we have the 50 pixel snapping. So let's place it right there. Now let's take another wall, and we'll take wall 400 by 400, and let's place it to the other side. And now, if you look from the top, we would like them to align. So we can maybe use our top view that we, if you remember, used earlier. And we can see that this line is now aligned with another wall. Now let's go to our perspective view again. And what we're going to do, instead of pulling the wall again from the content browser, which we can do, and then try to align it and place it wherever we want, another convenient thing that we can do is duplicate our wall. So we are going to do that, but before we do that, let's take both of our walls and let's just move them a bit so we have a bit more space to duplicate things. And now let's take the wall, and if we hold Alt and drag, we can see the wall is duplicated. And because we have snapping, it will conveniently snap to our side of the wall. Now let's take both of our walls, and before we do anything, let's change to rotate objects instead of move. So one convenient kind of shortcut that you'll be using is space. So they just scrolls around these manipulators up here, and we need this one, rotate, and if you hold Alt and rotate, we get something like this, and let's rotate it 90 degrees. And now let's just place it kind of at the right place. Something like this. You can see that there is a bit of an offset on the wall, and we could fix this by doing something like this, change it to 10, and then just moving it and try to align it. But for right now, we'll just leave it like this. And now we can see that it's a bit offsetted here, so let's change this. So holding shift, we can select 4 walls, then just move them a bit, and then we can also move this wall, and this should be aligned. Now let's take this last wall we made, and let's click space, hold alt, and rotate it, and it fits perfectly because we were snapping everything. And the last thing that we can do is click on these 2 walls, hold alt, and then just move them to the other side. This of course duplicates them and puts them on the other side. And as you can see, since shadows are dynamic, Unreal already gives you the sun that is creating shadows for these walls, and it already looks pretty nice. And the good thing about these modular walls is that if you click on any of these walls and then go into the other property, which is static mesh, we can change the type of mesh that it is. So we have the wall window, and if you click on that, it just snaps to the wall window. And we can just change any mesh with the 400 by 400 wall. So that's about it for this tutorial. I hope you can see how easily you can manipulate and add drop objects into Unreal, so you can pull anything from your asset library and just put it in the scene, and it will work nice. It will snap automatically. It works really nicely. And you can also, if you ever get lost a bit, remember to use the shortcut click F to center an object, and Alt, and you can just rotate around, do anything you want basically. And that's the end of the tutorial. In the next tutorial, we're going to check out the materials and textures and add some colors to these walls.